Hey there! If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. I'll say that again. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast. Oh, yep, with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Now it's time for the Big Bad Broadcast.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Thank you.
Good afternoon, the Big Bad Broadcast. It's a new year. We got the same old show, but we're bored because we haven't done it in a couple of weeks, and we can't wait for today because we got a great show. And It's New Year's. I hope you had a great holiday. I hope you're staying safe. And the regular guys, our regular cast and crew are here today. Everybody's here. Joe Silky's back from whatever he's been doing. And Mike Grief is here, the king of...
But you said the regular guys. I don't know. I've been doing that keto. I haven't been that regular lately. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Kermit the Frog here. It's not that easy being green.
He's not green, though.
I know. What do you got? Like a faded... That's a really faded Kermit the Frog.
He's disappearing.
He's disappearing into the...
There we go. And we got our Yoda, our guy behind the scenes, Craig Mitchell.
Happy Days is filmed in front of a live audience.
All right.
There we go.
Hey.
So let's go into everybody so we're all the same size.
All the same size. That's
Yeah,
impossible.
there we go.
I'm Irish, so I'm out.
So we just had New Year's Eve, and I'm going to start off with what my New Year's resolution is. I am not going to deal with stupid people anymore.
All right, so
I'm not going to deal with...
Take care.
Bye. We're out of
You guys
here.
aren't stupid. I'm talking about these people. The other day, over the holidays, my present to myself was I have to get a hip replacement.
Ooh.
So they put me on a new medicine, which I just read before I got on. The side effects are irregularity, diarrhea, runny nose, and a weird throat.
So runny nose and a runny ass.
So it's every symptom of COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Not a good time to have those side effects.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, no.
So anyway, because of that, I went to get tested. Right? So I waited online for an hour and 45 minutes. And while I'm waiting online, some guy pulls up in a pickup truck with a Confederate flag, rolls down the window and goes, "You're stupid, man. You're all stupid. You're all insane. There's no COVID. You're nuts. You're out of your mind. You people are crazy." And he drives away. So I get up to the COVID guy and I go, the guy who's testing.
The COVID
and,
guy. Who
COVID
can make
guy.
the sunshine? Sprinkle it with blue. The
Oh,
COVID
I
man.
go, it's so New York, isn't it? The COVID guy.
guy.
So I go the testing guy. And I go to him, I go, "What was that guy?" He goes, "Oh, he comes by every day." It's like, okay, if it was a line to get vaccinated and he was an anti-vaxxer, that would make sense. But I'm getting tested. I mean, that's being tested, which was negative, thank God. But I'm not dealing with stupid people anymore. You know, I've come to the conclusion that these anti-vaxxers, these anti-maskers, which are really in Florida a problem. You wear a mask, they look at you like you got like two heads. And I'm not going to deal with it anymore. I'm just going to say, "Hey, you're an idiot. I don't care." I am. I'm going to say to them, "You're an idiot. I believe in science. Get an education. You're out of my life." Because you're not going to change any of these people's minds.
No.
So why get mad about it? Like, just
If the
ignore
COVID
it.
man, if the COVID man can't change their minds, The COVID man can. The COVID man can.
I saw this guy.
The world die too.
I saw these two folk singer guys on TikTok, and they go, "When I think about all the crap I learned about COVID, it's surprising I can crap anymore." And they go, "Omicron, give me the worst feeling."
That's very good. I like that.
You've just mutilated Paul Simon.
So that's my New Year's resolution. No more stupidity in my life.
Good.
And that might mean I have to block some of my family members.
You're going to be a lonely man.
Yeah.
Really?
And what is your resolutions?
My resolution this year is not to make any resolutions, and so far I haven't broken it.
There you go. I think your resolution would be you're going to part your hair on the other side. Hey, I'll be here all week.
No, see, Joe's waiting for that perfect part. He's going to play Mr. Clean in ACAD when the new Batman movie comes out.
I'm pretty sure that guy in the verse video could have been Joe.
Oh, come on. How funny was that? Man, what are you doing with a Tesla coil hanging around anyway?
And why are you dressed like some sort of weird thing? Like you're in a science fiction movie.
You're a wizard, Harry. You're like a wizard.
Yeah, he was like a bald Dumbledore.
man, that was some shock to the head, too.
And he went down like a brick. If you watch the video again, watch the woman who reacts. It's a great reaction. She's kind of like, oh. Yeah.
That's why he's bald. He probably fried his hair off.
The ninth time he's done that.
Yeah.
And Mike, what is your resolutions?
I don't have resolutions. Like you, I have one thing, and it's not really a resolution. It's to accept the truth, and the truth is that we were planted here by aliens. See, the Earth is a farm or a ranch, if you will, and we were planted here by aliens. They're growing us so that when they come, because they need body parts and things. They're just like us, and what happens is every 3,000 or 4,000 years, we become poor stewards of the planet, and they're going to wipe probably COVID and all these things. They're wiping us out to start with a new crop. And it's just to realize that is the truth, and there is no spoon and all that stuff. So
why did you tell us while my daughter was on it? Maybe a movie.
Because your daughter hasn't been on yet.
Yeah,
I know.
Speaking of the future.
Wait, his daughter's on today?
Wow.
You don't have to cut that. That's funny.
No, my actual resolution, and this is what it is every year. It's not even a resolution. It's just I want to be in better shape next year than I was this year. Whether that mostly physical and mental and all of that stuff.
That should be pretty easy.
It is easy for me because it's starting at such a low bar. Just to be a little better. Yeah,
we're all at that low bar.
Yeah.
And what about you, Craig?
I drive rideshare. It's not a resolution, but
nowhere to go but up from there.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you. I got to tell you, yesterday to start off my new year, and I got this guy from Florida, from Gainesville, Florida,
the capital.
Oh my!
Tallahassee.
He was a total nut job who worked on the space shuttle, and now I know why he exploded. Seriously, this guy is. No, this guy worked on it, but he was telling me how COVID is all a scam, and that when you get shot, you're getting the tracer and all that stuff. And it was a 45-minute ride with him talking about "Let's go, Brandon," all that stuff, big stuff. And I played along. I really did. I don't believe in any of that, but I was just digging it. What do I hear? Somebody
you know what "Let's go, Brandon" means?
Yes, I do.
It means it means. I'll tell you what it means. It means I have a 10th grade education.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
Hey, look at.
But I kept egging him on. We kept.
Look who's calling me.
Oh, there you
must
go.
have heard. Anyway, so I kept egging him on. He got more into it, and so I drop him off. I'm like, great. He left his phone in my car. So I'm driving. I drive all the way back to Hollywood. This is from LAX, and I get a call on my phone because I gave him my card like an idiot. And he goes, "Can you come back to the airport and give me my phone?" I'm like, "That's going to take me like an hour."
You should have said, "No, it's not here. It's not in the car." And thrown it out the window.
Your phone isn't real. It doesn't exist.
I'd have thrown it out the window.
I really thought about it, but I went back. I gave him his phone, and he said, "Oh, come back! I'm going to tip you big. I'm going to tip you big." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay, sure, all right, okay." And I drive all the way back. I see him. I give him his phone. He goes, "Oh, I don't have any cash on me, but I'll tip you on the app." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And at the end, he goes, "Let's go, Brandon." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go, Brandon." Yeah, okay, whatever. And I get in my car, and then 2 hours later, I got a $30 tip. So
there you go.
I'm going to be conservative now.
So
because
that covered half the gas to get back to the airport.
Yeah, exactly. So my resolution is to become conservative. So
my resolution would have fit in better. You should have thrown it out the window.
I did. I can't think about it.
I would have said, "Sorry, sir. You did not leave it in my car. You must have fallen out getting out of the car."
I did.
It's very funny. It's almost like I say that, but I would have done the same thing you did. It's almost like what Bobby Collins used to do that bit in his act. Your wife comes home and goes, "Get your feet off the couch. Listen, man, this is my couch. This is my house, and I'm the king of the castle." Well, that's what I said on the inside. On the outside, I went, "Okay, honey."
I mean, you know what? It's just, I mean, that just, I couldn't do that. I'm sorry.
No, I couldn't do it either. I would like to be that guy that could do it. That's going to be my resolution.
If I lost my phone, I would be out of my effing mind. And you know what? Just because the guy's misguided or I don't agree with his politics, it doesn't make any sense.
This was I don't know, last year, whatever it was. I forget what it was, but I went to the shopping, and you know how people leave their wagon right in this parking space, the ones that are too lazy to put it back over. So I go and I grab because it's next to my car. So I grab this wagon, and actually in the thing there's a brand new Galaxy phone, the latest model. Ooh. And my first thought is, "Hey, Merry," because I already don't like this person because they didn't return their cart. But then the honesty clicked in, and I say honesty because I know they can track those phones. And no, but I went in and I turned it into the manager in the supermarket. They can't
track if it ran over by the cart.
This is true.
If you turn it off, they can't track it either.
Yeah. But I didn't think that the keeping their phone was the proportionate punishment for not returning.
Why did you give it back, Mike? You should have called the guy and said, "I got your phone."
There you go. "Hey man, I got your phone." Left him a message because he didn't answer. I called him like 20 times. He never answered. I just left him a message.
Yeah, I'm ridiculous like that. I'm the guy that even if I'm in Walmart, I see change that's like $1 or $2 too much, I go back. Just because I know their register is going to be short and they're probably making crap money to start with.
It's not worth feeling guilty or feeling bad about any of this stuff because what the truth is that I'm not the richest guy in the world, but I don't want for anything. I got everything I need and whatever, and I don't need to feel bad about somebody's phone or 3 cents extra that I got over on.
I told this story in the show before. I was getting gas in Orange County, and I had to put $40 gas, and I bought some like chips and stuff. And I give him the 40, and she gives me back $32. And I go, wait a minute. I bought gas. She goes, "Yeah, you get the gas, and there's your change." I'm like, no, I gave you 40. She goes, "Yes, sir, and this is your change." I'm like, "But I bought $40 worth of gas." She goes, "Yeah, and here it is. So I got $32 back and the chips. And I said, "Okay, bye."
At that point, I think at that point I would have left too.
Yeah. Well, maybe here instead of ugly, stupid lies to the bone too.
Yeah, but the thing about the shopping carts,
Joe, you're talking way too much today.
I know. That was my New Year's resolution. But the thing with the shopping carts are, if you return them, if everybody returned them, that poor kid that brings the carts around wouldn't have a job.
No, he still have a job because there's a return outside. He still has to go get them and bring them back to the market. Oh.
That theory doesn't hold.
His argument right there, like, there goes your argument, Joe.
Look at Joe.
But it's very funny though. Is if you shop at Aldi's, you got to put a quarter in to get a cart, and people bring those carts back like faithfully for a quarter.
Yeah. Is that true?
Well, see, years ago I used to drive.
I think it's a great idea. They put a quarter in, and that unlocks the cart.
When
you bring the cart back, you put the cart back in, and you get your quarterback.
When I drove limos, you could pay for those carts at the airport. And the trick was, as a driver, the first thing I do is in the parking lot, people always leave those carts. So the first thing you do is grab the cart and go bring it over so that you have a cart to use for your client. And but the same thing, I think those are three. No, people don't bring those back either, because you're bringing it to your car and then they just leave them in the parking lot.
Yeah, anything to do at the airport, I don't care about ripping them off. I don't care about the airport. Do you know that once I was running late for a flight in New York, and I make sure my act was on the plane, and this is the day of the LA riots, by the way, and I said to the guy, "Here's $20. Could you make sure you get my stuff on the plane?"
I like the way you said your act.
Right.
So my act, which is in a bag, I have nothing but my.
No, but it's my props. You know what I mean? Without it, I can't do a show. So I go to the guy. I go, "Could you get this this case on the plane? Here's $20. $20. This is a couple of years ago. I think that's a really good tip at an
30
airport.
years ago, actually.
Sure.
And you know what the guy said to me? "Get your mama to move that bag for $20." So the guy next
work that cheap.
So the guy next to him goes, "I'll take that bag." I go, "Then it's all
And that
yours."
person was Chips Cooney. No, I'm
How
sorry.
funny is that, though? Get your mama to move that bag for $20. Hey, we got a great guest today, an established screenwriter, playwright. She's going to direct a movie soon, which is one of her plays. She was a graduate from New York University, got a master's at Hunter College, graduated from Yale University. Her play, Ugly Lies the Bone, had New York Times Critic Choice. They just loved it. It went to London, and she's here to give us some insight on how she writes the play. She's an amazing guest, and she happens to be my daughter, Lindsey Ferrentino.
Yeah, there she is. Hey.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Everyone.
Hey, Linz.
Hello.
Kind of weird interviewing my daughter, but all right. So a lot of people want to know how everything started. Like what you did first. What did you do in high school? You wanted to be an actress, right?
Yeah, I always did high school theater and started writing screenplays when I was in high school. I was watching Project Greenlight, the show where Matt Damon and Ben Affleck took screenplays and produced them, and I really wanted to meet Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, so I thought I should write a screenplay. And I really think that is actually how it started. And I heard that you needed this program called Final Draft to be a real screenwriter. And so I asked my dad if he would buy it for me. And he said he would, on the condition that I actually finished a screenplay. And if I didn't finish a screenplay, I think I had to pay you back for it.
Right.
That was the other motivating
It was
factor.
my only great moment of parody.
Yeah. Yeah. Was my two motivating factors to write my first screenplay were to meet Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, which still has not happened, and also to not have to pay my dad back for Final Draft. But it worked, and so I wrote a screenplay, and then I sort of just got hooked on writing screenplays and plays, and I wrote a one-act play in high school that my teacher sort of forced me to write because I considered myself at that point a serious screenwriter who didn't write plays. And she made me enter this contest. And then this little one-act play won the high school contest, and then the county and the state and the national contest. And then it was produced at the Kennedy Center through a high school playwriting competition right after I graduated high school. And I went and saw that, and then really felt like from that moment on, that's what I wanted to do. But I was already signed up to go to NYU as an actor. So I went to NYU but took as many playwriting classes as I could and stayed an acting major and just started writing and writing and writing.
Well, let's back this up. When you were a little kid, like all families that do plays, in our family, they always did shows, and Lindsey would write out scripts for the kids, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's something I always sort of did, but also came from a family of you as a performer, and my uncle.
That's all you have to say is she came from you.
Yeah, from you. Yeah, my uncle Lane's Merge, you know.
You're related to Lane's Merge?
I'm related to Lane's Merge.
Oh, wow.
Exit
and
lanes.
a lot of
and Richie
and Joe Silky doing magic at our kitchen table, and like I already showed him this painting of shirts like this, and feel like I was around a lot of artistic people growing up.
And then you used to go to the comedy club, right?
And then I used to go to the comedy club with Vanessa, Richie Minervini's daughter, and we used to sit in the back of the comedy club, and when they'd introduce and drink our like Shirley Temples, and when they'd introduce our dads, we'd be like, "That's our dad," you know, and like I hope that people thought we were really cool.
Yeah.
So you had a really supportive environment. You know, which is really, really cool because a lot of artists don't.
Yeah, definitely. It was never like, "Oh, you want to go into the arts? What are you, crazy?" It was just sort of like, "Okay, that's what you want to do."
Joe, what's your earliest memory of Lindsey? You told me the other day, playing what?
Oh. That's not the earliest memory, but we used to play Pretty Princess at the kitchen table.
Me and my brothers used to play that.
You get dressed up with like beads and crowns. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot.
Greg was playing that yesterday.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah.
And we went to Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, I used to love a Chuck E. Cheese. Who
Yeah.
doesn't? Yeah. And we used to have these big family. I think that's also a big part of it. We used to have these big family reunions. My dad's whole side of the family they're all insane, and so they would have like fully set up a stage in the backyard, and each family had to prepare an act. And you would compete for these like little Oscar trophies, and they were like everyone was in costume, and they were like rehearsed acts. It wasn't like a little talent show. They were like each family had like a fully rehearsed. And I feel like as the years went on, at least you can tell in the home videos that like every year the acts got longer and longer and longer until like families were like doing like react plays, you know. It was like 10 minutes in, the Titanic ship hadn't sank yet. There's that, they did the Titanic movie, and they're pretty amazing actually. I used to really look forward to that.
And then Joe, show what Joe made Lindsey for her christening.
Oh,
Craig,
you said Joe. You said Joe. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I said show.
I'm sorry.
I thought he said Joe.
Craig is off today. He's still thinking about praying Pretty Princess.
Yes. Okay. So why don't you ask that again, John? We can edit it in.
So show Joe what Joe made Lindsey for her christening.
That is amazing. That is incredible. Do you still use that in your act?
Yeah, I do. I bring it out every once in a while.
That's amazing.
He made it out of foam, like he put all this foam on it so it wouldn't hurt a little kid's head.
Oh,
it's not photoshopped.
No, it's an actual meat cleaver.
Yeah,
it's an actual meat cleaver. He goes, when you bring her down to show her to everybody, have the meat cleaver in her head.
That's so funny.
All right, so let's go forward. So then you went to NYU, right?
Yeah.
And you went as an actress, and you had to sing Les Mis to get in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, he's making fun of me. I went as I had never done musical theater. I always just did plays, and we the first day at NYU we had to do a singing audition so they could place you into beginning, intermediate, or advanced singing. And I'd never sung a song before on stage or anything. So they like had a drawer of sheet music for you to pick from, and I just like, oh, I know, I dreamed a dream from the hardest song there is to sing, and I like started singing it, and they were like, beginning, she goes to beginning class.
Oh, those are the worst. The singing. I had to sing for. I read for the Sons of Anarchy when they were doing the pilot, and I had to sing an Elvis song for the and for Art Linson and for Kurt Sutter, and you talk about.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Whose dog is that?
That's my dog. Somebody just rang. Somebody had the nerve to ring the bell.
He's tired. His dogs are barking.
That's so funny. So, okay, so you went to NYU, and then you became friends with Edward Albee.
Edward Albee. I wouldn't say I was friend. I would not say I was friends with him. I wished I was friends with him. I wrote him a letter. I did a lot of ballsy things when I was at NYU because I didn't know any better, and I wrote him a letter asking if he would be in a documentary that I was making on the poet W.H. Auden. And for some reason, he wrote back and said yes. I have no idea why he would have done that, but he did. And so I got to go to his house and interview him for this documentary that I was making. It was just the most incredible experience because I was the biggest Edward Albee fan, and he was really one of the reasons why I wanted to be a playwright. So I got to go to his house and ask him all these questions that I had written up, to the point where I feel like I started asking him the same questions over and over again because I was like trying to stretch my time with him. And then when I graduated NYU, he had a fellowship that his estate still runs in Montauk, where he has an artist residency, which is basically like a barn out in Montauk, where he brings a playwright, a novelist, a sculptor, and a painter to spend a summer. Well, you get like a month-long residency. So I applied to that after I graduated, and then I got to do that, and then got to have dinner with him through the residency during my time out there. And he would sort of bring you the mail and kind of stop by and ask questions about what everyone was working on. And then I wrote this little one-act play that they performed at the dinner for him. So yeah, he was like the first hero of mine that I actually got to meet. So that was pretty amazing.
I mean, after me, right?
After you, after my dad, after Lane's merge,
And then,
how dare I not?
It's good to see you raised your standards over time.
Can we talk about how you used to try to get scripts to people? Are we allowed to talk about that?
No.
Oh, come on.
No.
That's not...
Yeah, okay. I mean, I was always trying to I was always hosting my own readings of my plays, and before my plays were being accepted at theaters, so I would rent a room and hire actors and bring people to the space. And I sometimes would email under the guise of a imagined producer, rather that I pretended was me inviting people to this event. That I pretended was not me, an imagined producer. Right. That so that it wasn't me inviting people, it was this producer who I made up.
That's a very creative way to, my wife used to manage, and she would do the same thing for me. She would send the stuff out as a management company, and
totally.
Yeah,
it works. It works.
That's
works much better than you would think it should work.
Yeah, me too. I would go to dating sites and use somebody else's picture. It worked great.
Yeah. Except the picture was Rin Tin Tin. Anyway.
But didn't want somebody that you met, like a legitimate producer, they went, wow, that person that we can't use the name, but she's really in your corner. She's so good. And it was you. And it was
everything, but
and it was you. You said you were dying. Oh yeah, she's really in your corner, man. She's really great. And you're thinking, oh my God, it's me.
That's funny. I don't remember that.
Reasonable on commissions too.
So then you wrote a play in NYU, right? Which was pretty interesting, if I remember. It was about, explain what that was, how that worked. It was about do you really remember? It was about people's lives. There was a guy in the show that was gay.
Oh, that play. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wrote a couple plays at NYU. That one was, I studied at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute at NYU. And so I went to them and said, could we develop a play with the actors that were in my class? And so we had, we developed it based on a lot of improvisation. So the actors would come in and we'd film all of the improvs, then we'd transcribe them, and then I tried to write a script based off of the improvs, which was great. I mean, the script, the play is was pretty awful, but we had a great time doing it. And I think it taught me how to write dialogue, because I was just constantly typing up how people actually talk. But I don't think the play itself was very good, but we had a good time doing it. Yeah.
Well, we were talking before. I just want to say, because it's amazing that, the Ugly Lies to the Bone, it's like that was your first official play, right? That's the first one that was produced. And John was showing us what went into it. It's amazing how that somebody really must have really believed in you and the idea, because there was a lot put into that. It's amazing.
When I went to the National.
Yeah, the Ugly Lies to the Bone was the first play that I wrote, but it wasn't really, because I'd written 10 plays before that. The first one was, actually professionally produced. But,
it's like that overnight sensation deal. You've been here for 10, 15 years. And
yeah, I really think it was my 10th play or something, but it was the only one that actually got such national and international, attention.
And that show's been produced now how many times? Loads, right?
Yeah, it's been produced, that one. So I wrote that from NYU, I went to grad school. I did an MFA at Hunter College in MFA in playwriting. And then I went straight from the MFA there to getting my degree at Yale, which was another master's in playwriting. And in my third year of Yale, Ugly Lies the Bone, which I'd written in my first year at Yale, was produced at Roundabout Theatre Company in New York. And then went to the National Theatre in London after I graduated.
Wow.
So that was kind of the beginning of my actual career, even though I'd been working for a very long time. Up until then.
Was that, do you feel like that was the first time when you were getting that actual approval that, wow, I'm really on the right track. This is, I remember, because that's something I remember that, same thing as an actor or whatever, that first time when you really feel like, wow, I was meant to do this, I'm in the right place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a long time coming. And that play had a lot of readings at a lot of different theaters. And I'd had other plays that had a lot of, first you start writing plays and you're producing the readings yourselves. Then your plays start getting produced at professional theaters, but just as readings. And then finally, after years of doing that, then you get your first production. And then hopefully you get subsequent productions and other work comes from that. But you sort of need that first, the first actual production where they build you a set and give you professional actors and not just music stands,
And you had the lead. You had Meryl Streep's daughter, Mimi Gummer, was in that.
Yeah, mm-hmm. She played the lead, and that was great. She was wonderful in it.
And then, the New York Times loved that, which didn't hurt.
No,
right?
Yeah, a New York Times review can make or break your career, and I was very lucky that I got a very, very nice New York Times review, on the front page of the theater section. So I feel like everything that I have in my career probably can be traced back to that New York Times review, which is kind of a scary prospect, and the paper really shouldn't have that much. One critic shouldn't really get to decide the fate of an entire generation of.
My father used to beat me with the New York Times. That's the closest I came to.
So, why don't we have a little quick thing of Ugly Lies the Bone, right? A little clip.
Trailer. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll show that quick. It's 30 seconds.
All right, and here it is.
I cannot undo what's been done. Our craft, a virtual place for you to go, totally unfamiliar to your senses, so they forget how much you hurt.
It's me! It's Jess! Can you really make this?
Open your eyes.
Wow.
How cool!
We're going to have a link to the bigger one in the when we post this, because there's so much more. Another video that shows so much more that went into that. It's just incredible.
Yeah, the video shows how they actually created the virtual reality world on stage. It's
I want to see how they created the space shuttle on Ralph's hat.
Yeah.
It's funny seeing Ralph in those.
Yeah.
So give everyone, for the people who aren't familiar with the show, just a quick synopsis of what the show.
Okay, the play Ugly Lies the Bone that we're talking about is set in Titusville, Florida, which is where I sort of grew up, near the Space Coast of Florida. And it takes place at the end of the shuttle program when this whole area was like suffering from the 2008 financial collapse and the shuttle program and like hundreds of thousands of layoffs from the shuttle program ending. And it's about a soldier who comes back from Afghanistan severely wounded and having third-degree burns on most of her body. And she starts going to this virtual reality pain management therapy to sort of help her reintegrate into civilian life. That's
the pain management is actually a real thing. They had that
based on a real type of therapy that they use to treat all sorts of pain, but we're specifically testing in the VA centers on burn survivors who are large portions of veterans coming back were burn survivors. So, and it's the idea of the pain management therapy is that it distracts your brain with enough stimuli that you're not thinking about your pain. That's how it works, is that it just like gives you enough distraction that you don't think about your pain, but it then, so that you're not taking all these painkillers and things like that. But then it ends up sort of encouraging you to live in the virtual world and not necessarily in your real life, because it only works while you're in the game. So yeah, that's what the play's about. And that was the one that went to London, and there's actually a production of it that's going into rehearsal soon in Germany for the National Theatre in Germany in Augsburg. And that's going to be the first production that the whole audience will have virtual reality headsets.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Which has never actually been done before. They've always represented the virtual reality in various degrees. When it was done in New York, it was like in a very small theater, so it was mostly lighting. When it was done in London, it was in a huge theater, so it was done with amazing projections. And
when it was done in Atlanta, they had it all behind a scrim.
Yeah, all the different productions have done it different ways, but no one before has ever actually given the audience all virtual reality headsets. So I'm excited.
Are you going to go to that?
Yeah, I'm going to try it. Yeah, if I can, COVID-wise, yeah, I have to go see that.
Hopefully someday it'll make it to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. It'll be in German, so I won't understand what they're saying. But,
I get teased for choosing this background, Star Trek. But the thing is, it's very much like the invention on Star Trek, the holodeck. It kind of ties in, virtual reality.
Right.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Never seen it.
And they have phasers too, Mike. They have phasers.
Yeah, man, that's what I meant by this background, man. I found it very cool that you used a female combat veteran, because when you're looking at a bunch of guys who, when we were coming up, when I had to sign up for the draft, women weren't even allowed in the military. So
yeah, that generation of soldiers coming back from that particular war were like really I don't want to say the first time, because there's exceptions to the rule, but sort of the first time that like a generation of women really saw combat in that way. And so now I think there's more stories, I think, about we take a minute to catch up to what's actually happening in the world when you're writing about it. But there's lots of female veterans from that war. When I was at Yale, I had a personal trainer, and she was military police in Afghanistan. And so I was great talking to her too when I was writing the play, and her experience of being what it was like to like be a woman in that very male dominated, world. Yeah.
Is that where that line came from about having a manicure? You're going. Tell them that. That's.
Yeah, she talked about like how you are like, as a female veteran, at least her experience was that like you put on all this heavy gear and you're as physically fit as all the men, and you like, but underneath all the gear, you can't really tell if you're a man or a woman. And like, there were ways that she tried to like maintain her femininity by like doing these like really elaborate manicures. So despite having all of this like combat gear on, which I just always thought was this amazing like juxtaposition. Yeah.
So then after that,
you remember the most crazy details, Dad. It's really, you do listen. I'm surprised.
I have to listen. And then I cry at all the plays.
Yeah, he just weeps.
Trust me, he is so proud. All he talks about is you and your brother. Aww. It's almost every time we talk, you guys come up. So
it's so sweet.
Well, lots of times when I watch the play, I cry because of the content. Then I cry again because she wrote it. if that makes any sense.
Well, you usually start crying when you walk into the theater. Like, as soon as you see the poster, you just start crying. And then he sees the poster and he starts crying, and then he kind of collects himself, and then he sits down in a seat and he gets the program and he starts crying when he sees the program. So he's a good audience member, because by the time you get to the play, it's like, it's easy because he's already been like having all the human emotions walking into the theater.
I have a question. I'm not a professional writer, but I write sprint scenes.
Yeah.
And I was in an acting class for 10 years, and I wrote over 900 scenes, because one of the things I hate about acting class is when you're reading like something from the Maltese Falcon, and it's like, come on, you know. So I would write original stuff, and one of the compliments I got, and I heard something here, is that my dialogue rings very true.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that in your own work? I'm really curious to hear that.
I think it's like a. It's like a learned skill. It's like a craft that you can teach yourself. I think it's not really like a talent thing. I think it's more of like a craft. And the way that I did it was just going into public places, just writing the way that people speak, sometimes recording conversations, transcribing it. And then if you don't want to do that, you can also just like put on a documentary and transcribe documentaries. It's just like, even if you don't use that, you won't use that content, but just to like get in the rhythm of what it's like to type, see written how people speak, you know, and train your brain to not, because people don't speak in complete sentences. They repeat words. They have unfinished thoughts like I'm having now, you know, the conversations veer all over the place. So it's when people sit down to write dialogue, they write too linearly for how conversations actually take place. So I think the way is, it makes you a worse, I think the more you write dialogue makes you a worse like essay writer or prose writer or article writer, because you don't use great grammar. You know what I mean? You write how people actually talk, which is never how people write. So yeah, I think the two are very different skills.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's very cool.
In other words, she's saying what you have to do is the work.
Yeah. I think anyone can train themselves in that. It just takes some practice, I think.
And when I hear cliches in writing, I actually go, oh, come on, don't, you know, like especially if they use something, a very common saying that you hear in every script.
Yeah.
Like the most famous one in movies is like, you know, what is that? It's like, oh boy, the shit's really gonna hit the fan now. I'm like, really? Yeah. That's the best thing you come up with.
Well, people do really talk that way, though. But I mean,
it's a balance of that. Yeah.
What I find is you see like pieces, and if they're modern or whatever, and you find the author or whoever trying to stick in relevant terms. It's like you know, like I just remember like when Mad Men, the show first came out. I didn't really watch it, but I just remember they had to have a kid with a plastic bag over his head. They were trying so hard to say, "Hey, this is the '60s," you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
So then after that came Amy and the Orphans.
Yeah. So I wrote 3 plays during my 3-year program at Yale, Otherwise the Bone, Amy and the Orphans, and then this play called This Flat Earth. So then when I graduated, they were produced in that order, at 2 plays at Roundabout and then a play at Playwright's Horizons, which is another off-Broadway theater in New York. So Amy and the Orphans is a play about my family. I had an aunt named Amy who had Down syndrome, and was born at a time in the country where parents were encouraged to give their children with Down syndrome up to foster care. So my aunt was raised sort of in and out of institutions, and the play is about my family's relationship with her and how close but distant we were with her. And but it's a sort of a road trip comedy, even though it doesn't sound very funny. It's very funny. I like to write about serious subjects, but from like a comedic point of view. So, yeah, so that's what that play was. And that was produced at Roundabout Theater Company in New York, and just had a production in Barcelona, of all places. And I'm adapting into a movie for Netflix that I'll also direct.
Oh, how cool. Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah, we're still in the everyone keeps asking about that project, but we're still in the early stages of it. I'm still writing the screenplay.
That's awesome.
So how much, well, you take a play and you have to turn it into a screenplay. How how much do you have to expand it?
You have to, I think it's both a completely new thing and not a different thing at all. Like it's both. You have to really open it up visually, because a play, when you write a play, you're trying to think of the smallest version of that story, the few days that the story takes place, or the one room that the play takes place. And when you're writing a movie, you're trying to think of like the most visual version of it. And when you're writing a TV show, you're trying to think of like the longest version that story could be told, like the many years over that story, rather than the few days, which is like the play version. So it's just a matter of like expanding it, expanding the amount of scenes, the locations, making it more visual, less dialogue oriented. So the characters are all the same. Some of the dialogue is still the same, but page by page, it looks completely different.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to my part in the movie too.
Good, yes.
Yeah, which will be right after my part.
And you have to wear this as your costume.
Okay.
Well, it's funny. We've come such light years in the way we treat, especially Down syndrome or any mentally handicapped people in this country. I don't know about the rest of the world, but I'm sure it was probably the same. But we've come light years.
Yeah.
Because that's something that's always had Down syndrome, mentally handicapped, especially children, that would talk about John crying. That's the one thing that, hits me emotionally always, because I grew up and I had a friend who had, in the neighborhood, and I was always the guy that I would protect, because kids are cruel and, they'd make fun. And trust me, I've punched a lot of guys in the face for making fun of this one kid. So, because it's always been a soft spot with me.
Yeah. I knew you guys had Eddie Barbanel on the show at some point. Yeah, who's an amazing actor with Down syndrome that we cast I wrote a male version of the play when we did it in New York, so that during the evenings you would see Amy and the Orphans, and then if you came to a matinee, you would see a play called Andy and the Orphans, that Eddie could be in the show. Wow. And then at night we had Jamie Brewer, another amazing actress with Down syndrome, who you guys should have on as a guest because she's incredible. Yeah. And I sort of wrote the play for Jamie. I met her even before I started writing it. And I contacted an agent early on and said, like, who do you have? An agent who specifically represents actors of sort of all different needs, and said, what actresses with Down syndrome do you have that could handle doing a play and that would enjoy doing a play, that, like the rehearsal process of doing a play, that could do 8 shows a week. And so she was like, well, she recommended a few people, and I met with a few people, and really just clicked with Jamie, who's been on American Horror Story and does all her own stunts. And she ended up to be the first person with Down syndrome to win the Drama Desk Award, which is like this very prestigious acting award in New York theater from doing Amy and the Orphans, and was the first person with Down syndrome to star in a play off Broadway. So
very cool.
Pretty cool, yeah.
So that's really exciting, this whole thing with that play, with Amy and the Orphan. And then the one was Year to Come.
Oh, yeah. The Year to Come I wrote after I graduated. There was this Flat Earth at Playwrights, and then The Year to Come. And The Year to Come was a play that I wrote about my dad's family. So I wrote a play about my mom's family, which was Amy and the Orphans, and I wrote a play about my dad's family, knowing that they probably could be listening to the show. I'm like, what can I say about that play? But
it was great.
Inspired by my dad's family, who sort of gathers every New Year's Eve and has these big, loud backyard gatherings that I described earlier, and sort of talks about the state of the world and has very different political views. And so the play is not our family, but was inspired by our family. And so the play is the same family in the same backyard for 20 years, every New Year's Eve, moving backwards in time from 2020 to 2000, sort of looking at how the politics of the country affects this one family as they move through time.
Wow, that's very cool.
And knowing some people in your family, in John's family, knowing that they haven't moved in time at all.
Well, tell them about the most incredible thing about, in fact, we'll bring up a picture of that to put in post, but what they did to create the backyard. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Well, the play takes place in a Florida backyard, and a Florida backyard isn't complete without a pool. So the play, when I wrote the script, I was like, the play takes place in a Florida screen room with a pool, and people sit around the pool and they don't even necessarily swim in it. Oftentimes they're just looking at it, but it's sort of like a status symbol and like represents like the American dream of being retired in Florida is like you have a pool in your backyard. So the pool felt to me very important. So they built a fully functioning heated pool on the set when they did it. And the production was at La Jolla Playhouse in San Diego, and then was set to open at Roundabout in 2020 when all theaters were closed. So the production got canceled. We're in the midst of rescheduling it and things like that. But
they took the whole orchestra pit.
Yeah, they built and it had to be heated because you have to have actors going in and out of it without getting sick. So it was really incredible. They built like a full, a filter system of, it has the safety water, and like they built a pool. It was insane.
And once again, I can't get a beer at one of my shows.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, John. The stuffed potato is you can get a regular baked potato.
I've been very lucky with some very imaginative set design. I think it's like sort of the what is that movie, Field of Dreams, where you're like, build it and they will come. So you kind of just write these impossible things, and then designers are so brilliant, they just figure out how to do these impossible feats.
Well, how do you feel about directing the play? I mean, it must feel like you're the one who knows the material better than anybody.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I really can't wait, because I think as a director, I'm already as a writer, I'm already involved in sort of all aspects of the process, from casting to design, conversations to what the script actually looks like. But I'm not actually empowered to be the final decision maker. So, even though I'm across all of it. So when I finally get to direct this movie, and hopefully we'll start directing more going forward, I'm just like being in control of and like protective of my story, and getting to sort of have the final vision for it, rather than have my vision and then translate it to someone else. To just actually get to just put on its feet what the thing is that I've imagined.
Well, I know one thing they say, and I'm sure it's true, like with movies, and you're writing the movie, a lot of times the end product is nothing like what a writer originally envisioned. So with your play, you may get to do a lot of that, but I mean, are you prepared to see the final vision of your movie that may not be exactly?
That's definitely part of it. For TV, it's a little better, because like the showrunner is really being a showrunner of a TV show is much more similar to being a playwright than being a screenwriter of a film is to being a playwright, because the showrunner and the playwright sort of do get this artistic control, and the screenwriter in a movie, the director gets the final say. So that's why I needed to start directing.
Cool.
So that I can have that.
I can't tell you guys how many times I've sat with Lindsey at a play, and an actor will like gloss over a line, and she'll just go, 3 weeks figuring out what to say, and it's not even there anymore.
Well, I think that's what's exciting about film, though, is because like in theater, you do worry about it, and anything you write, you worry about every end and like and period and comma, and and when theater is a live medium, and inevitably actors are going to go up on their lines or forget things, or just that's human nature, and it's always changing. Whereas what's exciting about film is like you can actually lock it and do another take and do another take.
It's so funny, because when I was coaching acting a couple of years ago, and the one thing I would tell the actors is find the emotional life. I said, generally, when you go for your first audition, the writer's not going to be in the room. So don't worry about every single word. Find the emotional life. Now, when you get the part, it's a different story. But at first, you don't have to worry about every single word.
Unless the writer's in the room.
Unless the writer's in the room, yeah.
Because we don't like that when we're in the room.
Well, I think we've covered everything.
Oh, okay. That was easy.
I think we've covered everything.
So wait, I got one more question.
Uh-oh.
So that accent of Ralph, that's phony, right?
Yeah, it's fake. He's from Georgia. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He actually does have a slightly fake accent based on who he's around. It's really interesting. I always tease him about it because he he's from Manchester, which he doesn't
Northern.
sort of like a posh accent. But then when he's around his friends from Manchester, he's sort of like sounds a little more working class, you know. and then when he's around, you know, and then he puts on his posh accent. I don't really know what his real voice is, but it's no different than you, Dad, when you're around all your New York friends and you start going, coffee, bagel, you know, Chinese.
Grey Poupon.
Yeah.
Well, I have to get Ralph a clip of my mother watching him. He was nice enough to do a clip for my mother's 90th birthday, and I'm so remiss at not because I wanted to show it to him, her watching, because she just lit up like a candle, because that's his show, Death in Paradise, is my mother and my aunt's favorite show. They just love Ralph. I like so try sweet. To get information. What do you like about the show and all that? Him, we love him. You know.
So sweet.
Yeah. I think it should be noted that we're talking about your significant other, Ralph Little.
Yes,
we didn't bring that up. So yeah.
Why do you stop doing impressions?
That's Rich Little. Oh, that's Rich Little.
But you should see him do a Churchill. He does a great Churchill.
That went over my head too, Joe.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the story for you guys. I was working at a comedy club in Cocoa Beach, and a guy comes up to me after the show and says, "Your last name's Ferrentino?" And I go, "Yeah." I've only been in the business, 50 years? And says, "Are you any relation to the famous playwright?"
Oh.
And I went, so I thought it was a joke at first. And he goes, "No," he goes, "I just recognize the name. I don't know what's her first name, but something Lindsey." He goes, "My wife and I are big Broadway people. Even though we live in Florida, we fly to New York every couple of weeks." Wow. He goes, "I don't know if we've ever seen any of her shows, but she's always in the playbill, and we always read stories about her."
That's awesome. Wild. That's really cool.
That is
pretty Dee Dee was there at the time. She was like, "I can't believe this. I can't believe this."
That's so cool.
That's pretty awesome. Funny. So from now on, I will be known as Lindsey's dad.
That's what we know you as anyway. Come on. Really?
All right, Linz. Well, I'm sure you got work to do. You're always busy, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for hanging out with us.
All right. I just log off now? Leave studio? Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Wow. She left quick. She was out of here.
All right. We had a great show today. Let's thank our guest, Lindsey Ferrentino. Let's thank Mike Grief, Joe Silky, who actually spoke a couple of times today, which we love. Yoda, who's got Star Trek, and even though we're trying to cheer him up, he won't let us cheer him up. Cheer him up.
live long and phosphorus.
And anyway, so you can follow us on our website, www.thebbbradio.com. All right, so let's say goodbye. Happy trails to you.
See you next week.
See the COVID man.
Meet again.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Thank you.